Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Talking over some of the things last week was very helpful.
Oh, good, good.
Good, good. Had another question.
Sure.
Good. Could you say something about the invisible listener to help me understand the invisible listener?
Sure. The true listener is the presence within the body. You're the holder of the body. This is because once again, if you're formless, then the world is your mind. And the whole thought process is the activities that are appearing in the world. Correct? If you don't identify yourself with the body form, then this world then becomes your thinking, your dream state, basically. Because you're not having a body. So you're not sitting there saying, oh, well, this is in my mind, my individual mind. If I'm not identified with the body, then where are these thoughts coming? These thoughts are the world. Because you're formless. And then you start to understand, oh, it's a spontaneous projection. The same as when I fall asleep at night and formlessly I create a dream world and populate it. And even though there appear to be individual thinkers, I may even be in a dream, I may be thinking, oh, I have to run, there's danger. But who's the thinker?
Mhm.
It's a spontaneous projection. And this is
Why do we see the same things if it's all coming from our mind?
Because it's not an individual experience.
It's a collective archetypal kind of thing.
In other words, if I'm identified with a body, then I'm seeing things through the perspective of being a body, and there's objects, and I'm separate, and there are things going on, and I wonder what you're thinking, and all this sort of thing. And I see my own thoughts that are coming in my mind because I'm believing myself to be a limited thinker. And because of the identification with the body, I present to my formlessness this concept that I am a body with a mind, ego, intellect, and I pay attention to that. And therefore, the power that I give it through the understanding of creating this concept of being a body creates this concept of mind and individualism where there is none. That's why Maharaj says, you are not body, you are not body, you're not going to remain the body. Okay, so when he's speaking, when there is speaking, this speaking is coming from the formlessness using this instrument to speak. That's it. And only because it's in the illusion. So you're speaking within your own mind. And all of these so-called people that you're seeing are just objects that you're animating within your own mind. Because if you know yourself in a real sense for even a moment, then there's the concept of individuality is gone. The world is your mind. Well, whose mind is that? Well, presence is creating a spontaneous projection. Again, dream is so perfect. Physical body is laying down. They're sleeping. You forget yourself. You forget everything. There's no world. There's no you. There's no nothing. A sense of existence kind of twitches for a moment. Boom, a dream world is projected, and now you're dreaming. But you don't know you're dreaming until you wake up from the dream. Well, now, when you know yourself in a real sense, you've woken up and you understand, oh, this is a long dream. That's it. I believe myself to be an individual experiencing the world, and now I know that this body form is just an object within the consciousness, nothing more, nothing less. And that you are dreaming this dream of duality. So now, talk to me about birth and death. That's why we say the little dream characters at night, you see them expire or you see them go through troubles, nothing's happening. I mean, if somebody dies in your dream, do you wake up and then start planning a funeral, or, be very sad? Maybe you cry for a long time. Oh my God, my friend, he's dead. No, Maharaj says this too. You may dream that one of your friends is dead, and now you're seeing them the next day. Oh, wait a minute. Are you dead or alive? Because you experience them dying. And that's the only way death is experienced, is from the perception of being something, seeing someone die. Oh, he's dying. You do the same in your dream, but you don't have funerals and you don't go all sad. Now, of course, because there's a human experience that you're experiencing while holding this body, there will be sadness. There's, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, there's attachment to the body in the same way that someone you've known for a very long time, let's say, as he was saying, 80 years, he's known this person for 80 years, and now they're no longer in his town. So there's a missing of, oh, they're not here anymore. And that's the level of attachment that your ultimate self understands and feels and knows. When you know yourself in a real sense, what is this? Just a little dream character for a time. And then when you know yourself in a real sense, again, you say, oh, my mind is troubling me. My mind is troubling me is the mind is the world. Because there's no individuality, there's no body form that I'm identified with. My mind is the world. A lot of troubles going on in the world, but it's just as troubles in the dream. Okay, they're happening, but they're not happening because I'm dreaming. And not this body. It's not John who's projecting this world. This is your own selfless self. The invisible listener is that subtle, subtle, subtle presence within the body form, listening through the ears, speaking through the mouth, and in reality, prior to any of the words that are spoken, because the words, the unspoken word, then becomes like the idea of speaking, and then is spoken through this instrument. They call that something in the India tradition. They call it like the various stages of speech. But all of this is only because of this body. That's why Maharaj says, prior to being this, did you know anything? No. After leaving the body, you know anything? No.
Well, some people can go on and on about past lives that they remember.
Of course, imagination is wonderful. You're creating an entire world and populating it through the imagination of the presence and the conceptualization that can build on itself very easily. I am a body, therefore there's a world, therefore this world is real, therefore all the things that are happening to me are actually happening. Good things are happening, bad things are happening. I need to try harder to make bad things not happen. Pain and pleasure start to come involved. Of course, you can imagine everything. You imagine this entire world and all the people and all the activities. That's why they sort of, it's called the play. But even it's not a play because you're not actually participating. It's a play the same as when you're dreaming at night. You're not sitting there and saying, okay, tonight we're going to be by a lake. There's going to be trees on this line. There'll be people over here and they'll be picnicking. There'll be a lady and she's going to walk her dog. There'll be a car that drives by. As a matter of fact, I want a road over here. No, it's spontaneous. Boom, dream world is created. There may be park, trees, water, sun, moon, lights, but you're not the writer of this story. It's spontaneous. This is very nice when you sit there and you know, if I am not body, then what is this world? Well, if I'm formless presence, and this presence is appearing within, all of this is appearing within that presence, then I could say that this world is my mind. Nothing but images, appearances. That's why really thinking stops, because your thinking is the movement. This bus is moving along. Okay, that's by your power and your energy, because it's within that consciousness. And without this sense of existence, there would be no consciousness. And we're not talking about the individualized sense of existence. The individualized sense of existence is due to the fact that a body form is available in which there's the spark, so to speak, of life. I exist. Oh, but the existence is existing prior to the knowledge of existence in the limited body form and in the totality of the universe. The totality of the universe is just your mind, but not your mind. It's not like, oh, the universe is inside here. No, there is no here. This whole thing is inside of you. And you don't have to label it, because you might say, oh, so I'm a thought. Well, if you look at it from a body-based perspective as a mind, oh yes, I'm a thought within my mind. But no, not quite true, because all of this is just, there's no relation to you at all. It's just I mean, you could think or sit and just look out and wonder, like, okay, if I'm not body, this world is within me. There's a total elimination of any concept of duality, because what is there to be dual? Who's born? Who dies? The world is within you. Maharaj says the speaker, the listener are one and the same. It's just two body forms that are being seen. And therefore, there's the concept that there's some difference. There's no difference. And that is also why Maharaj says very beautifully, see yourself as formless and see the master as formless, and there's no separation.
John, in the recovery programs, they talk a lot about the higher power. What do you feel about that?
For my own self, I've mentioned this before, presence. You know, after I worked through steps of the program and the recovery program, I started to feel this subtle presence. I identified that presence as my concept of a power greater than myself, and I began dedicating my life to that. Literally, I was praying to that. I was very grateful, too, to be rescued from the hopeless state of mind and body, and began this concept of this is the power greater than me. And the cool thing was, too, somehow naturally I was surrendering to this power, because when I would go and act in old behaviors, not drinking, but acting in old behaviors, I wouldn't feel that presence as much. So I pulled back in line. Oh, now I feel the presence again. Okay, now I'm safe again. I like the presence. Without knowing what I was doing, my mind, as the conceptualized self at that time, was training itself to view presence as more pleasurable than alcohol, drugs, bad activities, wrong thinking, wrong actions. And I remember in the beginning when presence was just the size of a dime. I somehow knew I want presence. So when something was happening out here, and a lot was happening, like I went through some pretty crazy stuff in my first 3 years. And I would focus there, and all of a sudden there was immense peace. And that grew and grew and grew and grew. And the more I aligned myself, my quote, will in my life with that presence, which was basically the dissolution of the concept of something separate, acting separately, acting like I want to act. I started to mold my behaviors, and also service. When I did service, it was all thank you, Master, because I couldn't do this if I wasn't, in the program and working with you. And my life before this was absolute chaos. And now there's peace. So thank you, Master. This was before Maharaj, because it culminated then. I told you before too, I watched Muji. I was very into Muji. And as a matter of fact, even that was a pull, because like Muji would have these in February, they were like a whole week-long satsang of something, right? And I had to wake up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to watch this 3-hour satsang and then go to work. And I did it because, again, I was in that presence, and I was listening to Muji, and I was listening and enjoying. And it was very important. And I would listen to, I started getting meditation tapes, and I would listen to the meditation tapes, guided meditations, all of this to increase this feeling of presence. Again, still believing myself to be a body, worshiping a power greater than myself, turning my will and my life over to this power greater than myself. Then one night I had this dream, and in the dream, I was trying, because I'd never been to Muji before. And at the time I was seeing this woman, and it was a little bit crazy, but I said, okay, I'm going to go see Muji. Like, this was in my head. I'm going to go see Muji. And I had this dream. And in the dream, somehow, some way, and I'm not beating on Muji, because there are a lot of people who follow Muji, and I'm not trying to beat on them. But in the dream, it was a ticket that was fake to this concert to go see Muji. Somebody had given me a fake ticket. And also there was a motorcycle, and this motorcycle, the back end of it had a spike. So it couldn't seat 2 people. It could only seat 1. So as I'm going to this, I sit there, and this lady says, oh, please sit here, and this and that. And I see Muji, and then I start to understand Muji is all these people. And then something comes to me and says, and this was profound, are you really ready to meet me, John? And I said, oh, yes, Master. Yes, I am ready to meet you. Shortly after that, Sri Ramakant Maharaj, who was actually Anne and Charles, but they popped up on my Facebook page and started kind of chatting with me. And then they brought me into a Zoom session with Maharaj. And that was the first time that there was presence-to-presence recognition, and an understanding popped that this is that presence, and you're going to go and surrender to that presence. And so when Charles said, so John, when are you going to go to India? I said, August. And I didn't say it, it just said August. I had no passport. I hadn't told my boss. I had no plane ticket, nothing, but I said August. And Maharaj was asking, he said, when are you coming? I'm coming in August. He said, oh, very great. Good, good, good. And then after that, I went and I got a passport. I bought the ticket. Everything was just flowing, because I was slowly dissolving this concept of me with everything. I was dissolving within presence. As Nisargadatta Maharaj says, you're ready. It's just, you're done. You're ready. You're being cooked. And so I got on a plane, and by myself, because I'd never done that before. Always, I was very, 2 things. I had abandonment issues. And the biggest thing was I didn't travel anywhere by myself, not even to a restaurant. One time I was in a restaurant, and this person said, oh, are you here by yourself? I said, yes, but I'm married. I'm just here at lunch because I'm on my lunch break. I literally had to feel like I had to explain that.
Yeah.
So getting on this plane and going to India, that was presence. And then, you can read the journal, how I was in the airport saying, Master, I am coming to you to bow to your feet. Whatever remains of me, I want you to take it. Take everything. You know, truly, even had they said, okay, you know, walk in this room, and it was just you're willing to die for it, literally. Like whatever it took. I just didn't care. All I wanted was oneness with that presence. And see, I knew that Sri Ramakant Maharaj was that presence. The very first thing I did was I thanked him. I said, oh, thank you for this journey. Thank you so much. You've rescued me. Like, you've rescued me. And then within the next day, he gave Naam Mantra, or next 2 days, it was August 6th. And at that moment, from that moment on, he said, say that, you know, recite this mantra. And I did. And then, you know, you've heard the story. I go, I get my beard shaved, all this kind of stuff. Most beautiful, I get food poisoning because by doing mantra, I took off the red rocks beads, my protection, my connection with that power greater than me. And I got very, very sick. But I had learned, and I went to Maharaj. I said, Maharaj, I'm so sick, but something tells me that if I put these beads back on, I'll never be free because I will be relying on these beads. And I want to be complete, cut everything. And he's like, yes, Jai Guru. And then we went to the hospital and all this kind of stuff. And you've heard that story. This is the journey, which actually is not happening. It's, again, like you were saying, it's imagination, but it's the imagining of a journey in which at the time you're believing yourself to be something separate, you're absolutely willing to be nothing. No mind, no ego, no intellect, no need for fame, no need for money, no need for nothing. And the most beautiful thing, of course, is in the next year, Maharaj wound up coming to the USA. And again, as presence would have it, he was only 10 miles up the road from where I lived. And once again, spontaneous reaction of going and buying the video camera. And the video camera then became Ramakant Maharaj USA, all the talks. And we put the subtitles on the talks, and then we translated the talks into Spanish, and we translated the talks into French, and eventually the talks were into the book, Ultimate Truth. So it was just, this is the reality, the projection of knowing that everything is absolutely perfect. Nothing is out of place. And without a body, the world is nothing more than your mind and its activities. And this is why then you can see the dream state and the waking state as one and the same. There is no difference. Then it becomes silence without the concept of silence. Because the concept of silence is, oh, I'm going to be silent. And then there's mind activity that I'm identified with and I'm flowing along with it, but I'm on this silence. No, silence without the concept of silence, because the only thoughts you're having are the cars moving, the birds chirping, the sun rising and setting, all within you when you know yourself in a real sense.
That's helpful to hear all that. You know, the presence came to me as a young teenager, and so it's been pretty much, I've known it since a young teenager. but it was many years that I still thought I was a separate person. Separate person developing a higher consciousness.
Mhm.
Yeah, that went on for many years.
Maharaj talks about, just like with the Red Rocks beads and changing my style of dress and all that, the egoistic spirituality. You somehow
Yes.
feel special and different
Yes,
because,
yes.
wow, I feel this presence all the time. And then you talk to somebody else, oh, I don't feel this presence. Oh, very special. And this is
That's
only
the way it
egoistic.
goes. Yeah.
You should be ashamed.
Well, and see, the thing is, many people, they feel this, but they identify it as something separate. And that's okay. Like you'll see the churchgoers, they hold their hand up in the church like this because they're feeling that Holy Spirit. This is what the label is. There's a Holy Spirit and it's flowing through me. And even in recovery, the power greater than ourselves. And it talks about, this back to basics. It says that the whole program got started because these folks would get quiet and feel the presence of God.
Mhm.
And that is, everybody's feeling this presence because that's what you are.
Yeah.
It's just then identifying it with separate, different concepts. And we are very lucky that the concept-free lineage, we're not given additional concepts. Even this is Brahman. That's a concept. Maharaj says, don't say, oh, this presence is Brahman. And then you go on the internet, what is Brahman? And, or even presence. If you start to Google, I am feeling a sense of presence, and you get all these different opinions, body-based, because it came without a body. Would you have these opinions? Would you be able to read these opinions or Google search? No. Therefore, you maintain just remaining with your selfless self. No concepts. And again, without the concept of body, where's death? Where's birth? Mind becomes world. Doership dissolves. The concept of ego loses its support because what is this ego to do? How are you to be, even like we were talking about the specialness? Well, if I'm formless, how am I special or not special? There's no attributes in formlessness. No good, no bad, no special, no terrible. No pain, no pleasure, no judgment. Nothing. Whatever's happening to the body, okay, this is happening. And again, you start to feel sick, you go to a doctor. If I was sick within my dream, I would seek a doctor. If I'm dreaming at night and I break my leg, the first thing I'm going to say is, oh, I need you to call an ambulance.
But when I have sort of uniquely, seemingly kind of experiences that are beyond my normal experience, I guess you could even include bliss in there. It's or like I had an experience recently that everything I was looking at was sort of looking back at me, as if everything was, had some kind of awareness to it.
Recognition in the projection. But again, this just means there's more of you that just needs to dissolve.
So these are just experiences that are, of course, they're going to pass. And
Yeah.
So
They're progressive steps.
it's, I mean, you could say it's illusion, but you all could also say, I don't know, it's something to it. I don't
Nothing to it. No, it's just like, vampires, when they look at themselves in the mirror, there's no reflection, correct?
yeah.
So if anything's reflecting, there has to be something there that's reflecting. If you know yourself in a real sense, then there can't be that reflection, because you're the world, or the world is within you. You say, okay, if I'm formless, then the world is my mind. My thoughts, my actions, my activities, I'm powering this whole world. But only can you say, oh, I'm having this experience. How is formlessness having an experience? Even the car right now that's driving down the road, the formlessness doesn't feel that.
I mean, your body feels it, but the formlessness doesn't. Your body perceives things in its way, but
Body has sensory, smelling, tasting, hearing, touching. These are like inputs, but the one who's actually feeling, the feeler, so to speak, is formless. That's why the feelings don't matter. Pay attention to the feeler. Maharaj has said this. Body's a sensory instrument, and that's why it's a 5 elemental body. It's going to go through disturbance as the 5 elements do. Give any given week, you have wind, you have rain, you have cold or hot, especially in Maryland. My God, it could be 80 degrees one day, 40 degrees the next day, and 20 degrees at night to kill your breath. So that's 5 elemental disturbance. Has nothing to do with you.
so the body and the mind comes up with all these comparisons, as if
Only because of identification with being a body. That's the thing. You have to have a body in order to do anything, in order to compare, in order to do anything. You have to believe yourself to be a body, which you're not.
well, okay, so you say you don't believe you're a body, but
It's not a belief, it's the truth.
yeah. But
You just have to discover it. Once you discover it, Keith, then you're going to be like speechless almost. You just be like a mute. Like,
I do get
I
that.
had this experience and I'm feeling this way, but I know it can't be my feeling because I'm not a body. So in order to have a feeling, I have to have a body, because the body is like a feeling mechanism. It's my avatar, so to speak, in this world.
So I still wouldn't necessarily deny the existence of this.
Don't have to deny the existence. You know yourself in a real sense, and the truth is exposed. The underlying reality is that you are. There's no denying. See, that's egoistic spirituality, like we were just talking about. If I sit there and I say, there is no world, I am not body. No, this is egoistic denial. Know yourself in a real sense, and all the secrets are unveiled. And that's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am, and all questions are answered. And Ramakant Maharaj says, I am Brahman, Brahman I am. Remain with your selfless self. You are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Body is not your identity. Accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master. Nothing is there. It cannot be any more clear. Every question has to be posed from a body perspective, and you are not body. That's why it'll answer within. As you get closer and closer to your selfless self, I think it's called Atman Nividam Bhakti or something like this, where you get closer and closer to your selfless self, all answers appear within you. You say, oh, I'm having this experience. Well, how can I have an experience if I'm not body? I'm formless. Okay, now I see this, I know myself in a real sense. So this body, this sensory organism, this 5 elemental sensory machine is feeling something. But the formlessness that's holding the body is not feeling anything. It's providing power to this instrument. And that's it. And that's why Maharaj says the same as the fan, the lights, the refrigerator, the TV. The power is being provided. What the instruments are doing with this power, the power has no, like, the electricity cannot say, I don't like what you're watching on TV, therefore I'm going to remove the power from the television. Or, you're eating a little bit too much, I'm going to remove the power from the refrigerator. No.
So the same goes for the body and the mind. Same
Absolutely. The formlessness that you are. Because, again, remove the body, the world is your mind. Oh, we have less than 1 minute.
Oh.
It just popped up there.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Jai
you.
Sadguru.
Thank you.
Jai
Thank
Sadguru.
you.
Thank you.